Hello, hello. It's been a while. I've been meaning to record this. I'm trying out a different recording setup for this since I don't have to be at my computer. But I'm here with a book thoughts. I just recently read the Starfishers trilogy by Glen. That is The Shadow Line, Starfishers, and Star's End. Now, this trilogy is another one of Glen Cook's, let's just keep changing things kind of deal. So I have to give you each book individually, and then you can decide if you think, as a whole, it's something you're interested in. So the first book is explicitly a character telling you about their past. A character who is a main character in the later books, about the formative events when he was a boy, with interludes where he breaks in and continually comments on it. This first book, I should say the whole series is science fiction, bordering on science fantasy sometimes. So this first book is explicitly a retelling of Ragnarok, but instead of it being the world ending, or all civilization or whatever, it's a much more limited Ragnarok. So at the time, there in the setting, there were some great mercenary companies. Not great as in great. I mean great as in powerful mercenary companies that you could hire to fight your whole war for you, and it is the end of that system. And it's pretty explicit from the beginning. It's the end of that. We're not looking at a post-apocalypse moving beyond the end of book one. We are, however, not looking at these mercenary wars anymore. Now, that being said, it does not hide its Norse mythology at all. All the characters are larger than life, and they are it's really fun to try to figure out what part of Norse myth things are coming from and how they're going to go. And they aren't one for one precisely Norse myth, but the large thrust of it's all the same. And the other thing that's fun is in this first book, Glen does his classic. Well, I brought this up whenever we talked about the first book of the Chronicles of the Dread Empire series. Glen does one of his favorites where we have two timelines and one catches up to the other. And in this case, we have our main timeline is Ragnarok happening. Our previous timeline is the backstory for the person who wanted to make Ragnarok happen. And it's an additional character. It's not just your Loki, right? It's more integrated into the world. There is a Loki character. He is not the main instigator of all of these events, though he plays Loki's role in the events. So that's a lot of fun. And it gets very interesting, and once again, it's a world where I don't know how Glen does this. I do not understand, but the man had a magic, and he was able to paint for me broad strokes of a world, just the outlines, but with the way they were painted, I got some kind of intuitive understanding of the texture and fabric of the world, and have a notion of the histories of the places and the factions, but we don't get big info dumps. We just get a line here, a line there. It all adds up into something very interesting. So that is the first book. The second and third book are nothing like the first book. So the second book, we have it's a spy novel, and the spies in this case are the person who is telling the story in Shadowline is one of our two spies in Starfishers, the second book, But our POV character is his partner. Now, again, we have multiple POVs. But it's all the same guy. Kind of. So, in this science fantasy business, this guy, this partner guy, he gets constantly new identities. And they are, like, wired into his brain by technicians, right? So he truly becomes a new person at different points in time, while still having a few things of him carrying a through line, and always having the mission and having his partner be the same and all of that. So we and stuff from prior missions comes up and interferes with the current mission. So that is our multiple storylines that kind of coalesce. It's all one guy, but not at different times. And it all comes together at the end. And I can't talk as much about this book without just massively spoiling exactly what's going on. But what I can talk about is the world of this book, where the first one was focused on mercenary companies and Norse myth. This book is focused on the eponymous Starfishers. Now, in this world, the Starfishers are a group that go and deal with the starfish, which no one's really quite sure what they look like. At the beginning of the book, well, I mean, the Starfishers do, but our spies, they're going specifically to learn where the starfish are, what they are, and how to harvest them as spies, because the starfish make ambergris, which is just euphemistic. It's not actually the ambergris from terrestrian whales. But they're these little nodes that you need for faster-than-light communications. So, incredibly important to everything. And that's how it is. And so the Starfishers are a very close society. There's an opportunity to get a couple spies in there. Everyone's trying to get some spies in there. Our boys get in there, and they have to deal with themselves, their spying, and what the Starfishers are dealing with, including why this closed society let people in. It's because they're at a crisis point themselves. So that's a lot of fun. And that goes back and forth, and that's a lot of fun. Third book, Star's End, is, again, we have a different flavor of spy novel. Without going into it, this is tricky. Without going into it, we have our same two spies in a position where their spy agency needs them, but they are not in a position to provide. The galaxy, the civilization, whatever you want to call it, there's a threat, needs to be dealt with. And our two characters are the people who are in the best position to do something very valuable to the effort, but it's something that would cause a self-betrayal. So that's what this book is about divided loyalties and staying true to yourself, and in the case of our main point of view character, what does that even mean, having been overwritten so many times, having so many conflicting selves to deal with? What does loyalty to yourself even and to your people even mean in that case? So that's the main perspective in that book. And then the other perspective is all the high-ups trying to deal with this cataclysmic eventuality that is staring down the barrel. So, as I pointed out here, these are three very different books. You could read Shadowline by itself, the first book by itself, and I think you could walk away very satisfied. The other two are definitely meant to be a pair. You could read them without reading Shadowline. You could read Starfishers and Star's End without reading Shadowline. But I think that knowing Mouse, the character, who tells us about his past in Shadowline, I think that knowing him ahead of time is of value. I can... These books are a bit odd. They're a bit different. I haven't read anything quite like them, but I can wholeheartedly recommend them if what I described sounds interesting. Remember, this world is a very interestingly built world, but we don't focus on it. We never... I don't think there's been a single book of Cook's that focuses on the world, even though there's a lot of care in the description of the world and the design of the world. It's never a focus. It's always character-based. It's always character-focused. Internal struggles or struggles between people, it's always character-focused. So if that's appealing to you, I heartily recommend this trilogy. There's another book that I haven't gotten my hands on, set in the same setting, called Passage at Arms. That's what it's called. Now that one is this setting in space, but is from what I understand, written to be like a World War II submarine story or a Cold War submarine story. I understand how it fits into the world, into the science fiction that has been built there, and it's utterly fascinating concept-wise, and I definitely am going to have my eyes out for that when I can come across it, or I'll just have to give up and buy it off the internet somewhere. Get it to me that way. But yes, definitely full recommendation. The focus is on characters, so don't come into it expecting military fiction for the first book, and don't come into it, like a hardcore military fiction of discussions of tactics. There are tactics. They're discussed. It's not the point of the book. And don't go into the second two expecting, Tom Clancy intrigue. There's plenty of intrigue, but that's not what you should be going there looking for. But yes, that is the latest fiction I've read, although I have been dealing with, as you can probably see, lots of other books have created a sudden influx, so I've been doing a lot of history lately. I might spin that off onto another channel. We'll see. I never thought I would do search engine optimization stuff, but maybe it's for the best if then to kind of separate that out a little bit. But that's all I have for now. I was very happy with these books. I hope you are too. Tell me if this is helpful. Tell me what you think of Cook in general. Like and subscribe so I know to keep making more of these, and so you'll see them. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.